It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of May 30th, 1997. We got 4 movies to look at today, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. And we're going to start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, which this first film was not a big hit. In fact, it was a huge bomb, and you're probably going to see why in just a little bit. It's Joe Pesci and Danny Glover meeting up again for the first time since Lethal Weapon 3 in Gone Fishing. There's so much to delve into this movie. You already saw right there at the end of the trailer. This was originally intended to be a film by Walt Disney Pictures, but then Disney shipped this off to Hollywood Pictures. And it's funny because if you see the DVD of this and the opening credits for the film, they don't even bother to fix that. They still have the Disney Pictures logo on there, which just goes to show you how much they gave a crap about this movie, because there's a huge production history behind this film. This film was originally intended to be a film with John Candy and Rick Moranis in the roles of Joel and Gus. They were both busy with other projects and turned it down. The film was originally set to be directed by John G. Avildsen of Rocky fame, and had already filmed with him as the director for the first 2 weeks, but then he was fired by Disney. They paid his $2 million salary to the studio, and then Christopher Kane came in. Christopher Kane did Young Guns and the infamous The Next Karate Kid. He eventually came on to replace him, and then when they were shooting the film, a stunt woman died on the set. So the film what happened was that the stunt was meant to jump on a ramp into a group of other boats, and one of the scenes went awry. The speedboat contained the stunt doubles for both Pesci and Glover, flipped upside down, collided with 2 separate boats, landing into the set containing film crew and extras, and the stunt woman named Janet Wilder was killed in the accident, and her husband and her father-in-law, as well as 2 others, were also injured in there, and that happened around Christmas '95, and the film is in tribute to her. Because of that, the film went over schedule and went over budget and came in with a final total of $56 million for the budget. This thing didn't even make back a third of its budget, and quite frankly, you can see why, because this is a really terrible movie. It's a terrible movie on so many levels. You really do not like Joe Pesci and Danny Glover in here, because they are just too stupid for their own good. Like they think that this movie thinks that these guys are like Beavis and Butthead or Lloyd and Harry from Dumb and Dumber. But no, they're stupid characters in those movies. But you also like those characters because their hearts are in the right place, or you just want to get behind their antics. You don't want to get behind the antics of Joe Pesci and Danny Glover in this movie. Like, they do way too many stupid things in this movie. And, like, things that are literally killing people. Like, you can take the logic of people not dying in the situations in this out of the picture, but I'm sorry, when you have a movie that begins with these 2 kids who basically cause a massive disaster in their hometown of New Jersey, where they go to jail and they get and thousands of people and hundreds of people are probably dead, and then shortly after that you get a scene where who's Danny Glover's character? I can't remember. Gus drops a huge construction thing on top of a construction office. The building operator's probably still in there, so yeah, it's hard for me to take this enjoyment in there when they cause so much damage in this movie, and you're just wondering how many people got killed in this movie, and how many people, like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna think about that. Plus, everybody in this movie is so stupid. Like, they are really, really stupid. Not just the 2 leads. The villain is stupid. Rosanna Arquette and Lynn Whitfield are not the brightest people in this movie because they're not well-written characters. They have character actors in here that are uncredited because they don't want their names to be involved in this garbage. Louise Fletcher's in here. Maury Chaykin's in here. Carol Kane, the only thing you can say about her is that it makes sense that she's married to Joe Pesci in this movie, but other than that, that's about it. I mean, this movie is a disaster. This is a massive, massive failure on so many levels. Like, this isn't even good in a so bad it's good type of way. This is a terrible movie. It's not funny. It's lazy writing. It's hard to believe that J.J. Abrams was one of the writers on this before he eventually became successful with Alias and Lost. But this is one of the early films he wrote, and it's written by the same person that also co-wrote Taking Care of Business as well with Abrams, which is obviously a far superior film than this. But this is just a disaster, man. This is a film that just was dead on arrival. There was just nothing funny there whatsoever. It's a huge misfire on so many levels. It's a terrible comedy, just an awful, awful film, just a mess on so many levels. So that was a terrible comedy that was released on May 30th, 1997. Now let me show you an underrated comedy that was released on May 30th, 1997. That movie is, of course, Trial and Error from Jonathan Lynn, the director of My Cousin Vinny, and also Sergeant Bilko, another very underrated comedy from the late 90s. This movie is friggin' hilarious, man. I saw this movie on a blind buy. I saw it with Michael Richards in there after I watched him on Seinfeld, and him with, of course, you got Jeff Daniels in there from Dumb and Dumber. Charlize Theron is also a rising star at this point. The movie is just absolutely hilarious, man. I mean, this is a freaking funny movie, and it just works. It works on a number of levels. It shows, like, the concept of this: you have an attorney and his actor friend who ends up replacing him in court to defend his boss's guilty relative, and Michael Richards doesn't realize that once he took the name of Charlie Tuttle, he has to now stay as him for the rest of the movie. And at this point, and then you know what's going to happen. It's going to be a scene where the lie's got to be revealed. There's probably going to be a third act breakup, but at the same time, the jokes that they have in this movie are just so hilariously done. I mean, it's a shame Michael Richards never really did a whole lot of other movies, because he's proven that he could be a really good comedic actor in films. Like, I really wish there would have been some more with him. Of course, more than likely that's not going to happen now after what happened with him in 2006, and if you don't know that already, then do a little research on that, people. But he's really good in this movie. Jeff Daniels is a ton of fun here as well. You have Charlize Theron. Jessica Steen is very good here. So is Rip Torn, Austin Pendleton, Alexander Wentworth, Jennifer Coolidge, Lawrence Pressman, Dale Dye, Max Casella. A really solid cast in here overall here. And it's a funny movie. I think Roger Ebert said it best. It kind of reminds me of some of Billy Wilder's classic comedies from that era when he was really churning out these really great films. And it's really fun. It's really funny stuff. It's a really funny film. It's an intelligent comedy. It's a film that really knows what it needs to do to get a good laugh out of you. I really love this movie a lot. I think it's a very solid film. I think it's a really entertaining film. A very underrated film, and another great film from Jonathan Lynn, who's made a lot of really good movies in his time as a filmmaker. And while this isn't anywhere near as good as something like Clue or My Cousin Vinny, this is still a really damn good movie, and one that people really should go and seek out and see. I mean, I love this movie a lot. I will defend it to the end. Great film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. You will not be disappointed by it. With that said, on to the next movie, and that is Till There Was You. This is a weird movie. This thing takes place over 30 years. You follow two people whose intertwined paths finally converge with their mutual interest in a community project brings them together. It's got a real good cast to it. Jean Triplehorn, Dylan McDermott, who's just coming out for the Practice premiering, Sarah Jessica Parker, a year away from her success on Sex and the City, Jennifer Aniston, right at the peak of her Friends' success, Craig Bierko's in here, Christine Ebersole, Michael Tucker, Karen Allen's in here, Ken Olin, Cassie Lemons, Ian Gomez. A really good cast here, written by a good writer too. Winnie Holtzman wrote for the underrated series My So-Called Life, but the film itself is just all over the place. It really doesn't know what it wants to do. Does it want to be a comedy, something to like He Said, She Said, where it's kind of experimental in its story? Doesn't work all the way through, but it makes for a pretty enjoyable film. Or does it want to be just a simple screwball comedy for modern times? You really can't tell what direction they're going for here, and it's a shame because there is a lot of good talent involved in here, but there's just no real direction of where they want to go. Like, what's the end result supposed to be from this? And it tries way too hard to figure out what it wants to be instead of just rewriting that beforehand, before you actually started filming. And they didn't do that. It just felt like they just took the script that they had because they had a writer that created a very critically acclaimed show, and they said, just do whatever she does, and it'll work out in the end, which, needless to say, this one did not. It's a film that has a lot of potential with its cast, but it really doesn't have a good idea of what direction it wanted to go to, and it kind of suffers because of that. You can't even buy into the chemistry between the relationships that go on in here because you really don't know what the direction is supposed to be when it's all said and done. This was a real letdown. This isn't something like Gone Fishing, which was like DOA from the start. There was potential here, with the writing and the people involved, but it just can't figure out what the direction it was supposed to go to at the end was supposed to be. And yeah, it's a disappointing film. It's a very disappointing film, to say the least. Really expected more from it, and unfortunately this was the end result. Not a very good film, so let's go ahead and take a look at the last film we have here, which is Rough Magic. So you've got a film set in the 1950s. It tells the story of what happens when this apprentice magician, played by Bridget Fonda, goes to Mexico to escape her fiancé, who's a wealthy politician, to find a Mayan shaman who will teach her ancient principles of magic. And she's being trailed by this detective, played by Russell Crowe. He's a former photojournalist, traumatized for what he saw in Hiroshima. The photojournalist joins her in their search for the Mayan shaman and falls in love with her. The feeling is not recuperated. When she finds the shaman, she drinks a potion which empowers her to do magic. And the potion has life-changing effects on her and her relationship with her companion. They have strange effects which are brought about by magic. That's really all I know about this. I've never even heard of this movie. I've never seen the film, obviously. But like I said, Bridget Fonda, Russell Crowe, Jim Broadbent, Kenneth Mars playing the magician, Paul Rodriguez is also in here as well. There's a good cast involved in here, so I mean, there could be something good in here, but at the same time, I don't really know for sure because I never even heard of this movie. I didn't even see a trailer for it until I did the research for this. There's not even any reviews for it as far as I can tell, so I really don't know if this is any good or not. I mean, I don't think it is because nobody really ever talks about it. But with the cast involved here, it's got to be worth something at least, I would think. But, I mean, who knows? I don't really know anything else about it except that it came out this weekend. Thought I'd bring it up, so yeah, Rough Magic. So with that said, that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. When we meet next time, we take a look at the first few films of June 1997, including Nicolas Cage, John Malkovich, and John Cusack in the action thriller Con Air. We also have Rene Russo in the infamous flop Buddy. We also have Bliss, Red Cherry, and Intimate Relationships. So 5 movies to look at next time around, and we will look at those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and as always, like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this on the channel, and I want to see you guys next time. I don't know why I said it that way, but thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time. I don't know why I said I want to see you next time, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care. Ugh.